Okay, welcome to GC Connect. In the previous class, we were discussing about the disinfection process. Um, so we'll now move on to the membrane filtration process. In the membrane filtration process, um, we are going to remove very fine particles. That fine particles involves, okay, see hairs, bacteria, um, um, and red blood cells, then some of the organic micromolecules, viruses, okay, then dissolved matters or dissolved solids, you can call it as the dissolved solids. Okay, see, normally when the raw water is inserted from this direction, okay, as it move from this direction to this direction, okay, here there are many screens are there, okay, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the pore size, if you see the pore size, it is very less and it is made up of different materials also. Okay, see, it will start with the screens, then the sand filter of the pore size 10 micron. Okay, then the microfiltration which is of 0.1 micron, then ultrafiltration which is of 0.01 micron, and the nanofiltration which is of 0.001 micron. If you see the pore size, and the reverse osmosis is 0.001 micron. Okay, then when you pass the raw water into all these stages, okay, all these stages, so definitely you won't get any of the pollutants, any of the pollutants. Okay, see, it's a very important thing is that the pore size has to be decreased as it move from this direction to this direction. See, at the initial stages, what will happen is that the higher size of the particles are removed. Okay, then at this stage, the colloidal or the blood cells particles are removed. Okay, and here lesser than that small particles are removed, and here see dissolved divalent salts are removed, that is calcium, iron, so like that it is removed. Then dissolved salts such as nitrates are removed. Okay, so as you move from this direction to that direction, from this direction to this direction, see the pore size is go on decreasing and even the smaller particles are removed. You just imagine that when it comes to nanofiltration, reverse osmosis, okay, see even the final 0.001 micron particle, if it is there, that is going to retain on the filter paper or retain on the filters. Okay, this we'll discuss in detail how exactly the things are going to happen. So then membrane processes. So overall we can call it as the membranes. See, whatever you are observing here, okay, these are all membranes. Okay, these are all membranes. Then membrane processes. These are very effective and slow rate transfer across the membrane. Then high pressure drops. Then the large membrane areas needed. Okay, can be used to separate colloidal and, very important this one, colloidal and dissolved solids that are much smaller than those removed by other filtration processes. Okay, specifically designed for the colloidal and the dissolved solids. Okay, those are which are very smaller than the any other particles. One major drawback in this process is high pressure drop. The major drawback is high pressure drop. See, what will happen is that when it is moving from one direction to other direction, okay, so when it enters to a, assume that if it is moving with 1 Newton per meter square, so when it comes near to the membranes, suddenly what will happen is that whatever the 1 nanometer square it will be there, it will come to 0.1 nanometer square, or it will be still lesser, or it will be still more than the 0.1 nanometer Newton per meter square. Okay, so whenever this, we can call it as pressure drop. Okay, this we can call it as pressure. Still, if the pore size go on decreasing, very important, if pore size go on decreasing, okay, if it is go on decreasing, still the pressure drop will increase. Okay, pressure drop will increase, that you have to note down. Okay, as it is go on decreasing, means the particles are the pore size which is go on decreasing, then um, the pressure drop also go on increasing. Okay, that we have to keep it in mind. Of course, this is one major drawback in most of the membrane process, but still it can be controlled, or it can be managed in other processes. Okay, see if you this diagram also, if you see that I already explained. Okay, if it is a reverse osmosis, 0.001 micron. Okay, nano and ultrafiltration, it is 0.01 micrometers. If it is colloidal, it is 0.1 micrometers. Okay, so then these are the membranes: RO membrane, nanofiltration membrane, ultrafiltration membrane, and microfiltration, and the sand filters. Okay, these are the different membranes based on its sides. Then the RO, what exactly it is going to remove? It is going to remove metal ions. The nanofiltration, pesticides and dissolved matter. But pesticides, you can, it is going to remove up to 5 to 10%. Not all pesticides can be removed in pesticides, remember. Okay, some of the particles which are dissolved in water, some of the pesticides which are dissolved in water, so that can be removed in this stage. Okay, then viruses are removed in ultrafiltration, then bacteria are removed in microfiltration. But here he said that pesticides are removed at this point, but it is up to 5 to 10%. Okay, this is of course not required. Then, so what exactly the classification of membrane filtration? Membrane filtration is classified as ultrafiltration, dialysis, electrodialysis, and reverse osmosis. These are the major classifications of membrane filtration. So then, if you see the pore diameter, what I already say is that pore size is very important as the ultrafiltration is concerned. So for the reverse osmosis, it is 0.05 nanometers, and nanofiltration, it is 1 nanometers. So then ultrafiltration, it is 1 to 100 nanometers. Then microfiltration, it is 0.1 to 10 micrometers. So as it moves downwards, you can see the size. As it moves downwards, your pore size or pore diameter is increasing. Pore diameter is increasing. Pore diameter is increasing. Then ultrafiltration, it uses the membranes with a molecular weight cutoffs from several thousands up to 1 million grams per mole. Okay, normally this uses this, whatever the ultrafiltration is there, definitely it is going to use the membrane. I already explained. Whatever we are discussing now, it uses the membrane with molecular weight cutoffs, okay, from several thousands up to 1 million gram per mole. So in a sense, if high molecular weight of compounds are there, assume that So some of the pesticides, some pesticides assume that. So which is having the higher molecular weight? Higher molecular weight. So how the molecular weight can be calculated? I already explained. Say for example, if I want to calculate the NaOH molecular weight, if I want to calculate the NaOH molecular weight, so Na is 23, oxygen is 16, and hydrogen is 1. So then it is total 40 grams. Okay, it is 40 grams. The 1 mole of, assume that if it is 1 mole of NaOH, if I am considering, so if I want to find out the molecular weight, it is 40 grams per mole. It is always it is 40 gram per mole. Like that, if you see any pesticides, most of the pesticides are having higher molecular weight. Okay, it is having higher molecular weight. Even that type of molecular weight compounds can be removed in this membranes. Okay, in this ultrafiltration membranes. So that is they are telling that it is from several thousand to 1 million gram. So it has the capacity to remove thousands to 1 million gram per mole of the compounds that can be removed. So it allows the separation of even proteins and high molecular carbohydrates. See, most of the proteins, what we are talking about, proteins and carbohydrates, these are all high molecular weight. High molecular weight. They're all high molecular weight compounds. Okay, so that can be removed in this ultrafiltration unit. Okay, so the osmosis as well as the reverse osmosis. See, the osmosis is the movement of ions from higher to lower concentration. Remember, higher to lower concentration. But reverse osmosis is lower to higher. Okay, it is lower to higher. So, see here in this initial condition, this is the tank. Here is one barrier, the selective membrane. Membrane is kept like this. The membrane is kept like this. It acts like a barrier. So here you have water is there. Here you have salt solution is there. So then, always in osmosis process, this is the initial condition. Okay, still the osmosis process has not started. So this is the initial condition. Initial condition, and see after osmosis, this is the final condition. See, initially both the levels are same. Here you can see at both the sides. Here water is there and here is a salt solution. Salt, you can call it as the whatever the salt you are using. You dissolve it and you can put on the other compartment and place one membrane here. Place one membrane in between. Okay. So then when the osmosis process will start, what will happen is that the movement will start from this is the lower concentration. Okay. This is the lower, it is the higher. Then what will happen is that once it enters, suppose if any ions are here, okay, if any ions are there, you can reverse this. Okay, see here movement is the lower from higher. You can see that here lower to it is moving along this direction. Okay, see it is moving and the concentration is decreasing here and it is the level it is increasing here. You can see means water is diluted and salt solution is more concentrated. So if any pollutants are there, the movement will from lower to higher concentration. So that is reverse osmosis. So then, in reverse osmosis, so this is the initial condition. Then what you have to do is that you have to apply some pressure, okay, wherever, then the movement will start from salt to water. So then there will be increase in the level at this section, okay, and this section you can call the, when the movement will start from salt to water, when it will start from salt to water, the moment there will be increase in the level of water, but this, at the initial stage both the levels are correct. But what you have to do is that you have to apply some external pressure on to the salt containing water side, okay. This is about the osmosis and reverse osmosis. Remember, this is osmosis is, now we can change over to higher, and this one is higher to lower, okay. So then type of RO membranes, okay. So some of the membranes that involves the porous support tube with membranes, okay. You can see that it is the porous supported tube type of membranes, okay. So here the brackish water they are entering, okay. Here it is coming out with the concentrated flow, and here it is product water, means clear water, clear water. But at this side, whatever the brackish water containing the salts will be there, that can be removed at this place, and the product water will be removed here, okay. So this is also tubular type of, okay. See, tubular type of the membranes, okay. Here you can see the rolls, membrane rolls, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of membranes, and this one is spiral wound type of membranes are preferred in some of the major applications, okay. Here you can see modules, okay. So this one is the collection tube, and this one is the permeate. I'll explain that what is that permeate is, okay. And this one is concentrate rate, and this one is a spacer, and this one is a feed, and here also it is in between the two membranes, the space is provided, that we can call it as spacer, and complete this one is RO membrane, okay. So normally what will happen is that inside it will be like, here you can observing, these are all the RO membranes, okay. See, permeate means whichever the water which is coming from this direction to this direction, when the water is filtered through a membrane, so when it is coming out from this tube, that we can call it as permeate, okay. So then this one we can call it as collection tube. You can see here, you can observe the collection tube. So water which is coming here, this one is permeate, so it is coming with the collection tube, okay. It is coming with the collection tube. So then what is concentrate? So concentrate is nothing but, for example, you have membrane here, assume that this is the membrane. So here the water is entering. What will happen is that this water consists of many of the salts. Assume that it consists of salts. See, what will happen is that when it is going out, when this direction, So here it will going to accumulate whatever the salt particles are there. It is going to accumulate and it will be collected at one place. That place is nothing but this is the place. Okay, this is the place. So then that can be removed. Okay, that can be removed as a concentrator. Okay, so this one is feed. So like that, it will be there. Means whatever the particles will be there, it will be concentrated and it will be removed. Okay. So some of the typical reverse osmosis applications include the desalination of seawater and brackish water, so boiler feed water, process rinse water. See some of the desalination applications of seawater and brackish water. See in some of the countries like Dubai and Israel, the Dubai and Israel, some of the countries, they are completely dependent on the salt water because they have the problem associated with the scarcity of water. Scarcity of water. See how to come over this scarcity of water in the some of these countries. What they did is that they have installed desalination plants. Okay, because they are in India, we have a lot of plenty of water is available. Uh, we don't have that much necessary like a desalination process and all, but still in Bombay and some of this in Bombay, they already started the desalination process. Um, and here in Dubai and Israel, 90% they are all dependent on the water only. They will desalinate it and they will use it for the uh, many other applications for the cultivations or drinking water. They are all completely dependent on that one only. Suppose if you want to use the water for boiler feed water, there also you have to go for the reverse osmosis. Then in some of these are all some of the major industrial applications. So process and rinse water. For example, if you are using in some of the food processing industries, there one unit called rinse water it will come, so that there we can use this typical reverse osmosis membranes. Then pharmaceutical manufacturing, cosmetic manufacturing, pre-treatment to ion exchange. See, one on ion exchange unit is there. If you want to uh, remove that ion exchange, okay, if you want to remove that ion exchange, if you want to remove some of the particles with the help of the ion exchange, so pre-treatment is required before to ion exchange. So in that cases, the reverse osmosis is preferred. Some of the electronic applications it is used. So then hospitals, central supply, this can be used. Even in our most of the schools and colleges, the reverse osmosis is preferred. The only one problem associated with this reverse osmosis is that, for example, 100 liters if you are supplying to a RO membrane, so 60 to 70% it will be a wastage. 60 to 70% it will be a wastage. So then how to reduce this wastage? So that is one major drawback, and still many progresses are going on to reduce the waste of water during the filtration process. If you are going with a you are supplied with 100 liters, only you will get 30 liters. You will get 30 liters of drinking water. Okay. So then the remaining it will be like a wastage. So if you observe the reverse osmosis unit, one the pipe will be kept beside that. Okay, that is nothing but the waste pipe. Waste pipe where the whatever the concentrated water. See, when in this diagram you can say whatever the concentrated will be there, so that can be removed. Okay, that can be removed with the help of that space or with the help of that pipe. The membrane fouling and some of the disadvantages associated with this, um, we will have the discussion in the next class.